This is episode 30 about breaking the silence on racism, Black Lives Matter, and privilege. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/blakemallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me for a few minutes. So have you missed me? I've missed you. I know I've been a little quiet the last couple weeks on social media, especially our morning walks together. That's not because I don't love you. I love our time together, but it's because with everything that's been in the air the last couple weeks, I've just been doing a lot of listening, a lot of thinking. And obviously I'm talking about all the conversation around racism and Black Lives Matter and this redefining of the word and meaning around privilege, which I don't know about you, are super heavy topics. And I want to open that conversation with all of you today on kind of why I've been quiet and three big personal distinctions that I've had that I want to share with all of you this morning. But before we dive into what I think will be a very deep topic, maybe a controversial topic, but hopefully an enlightening conversation that we all can open up transparently together, as my purpose of all our conversations walking this morning, because there's probably, let's just say, a diverse set of perspective, a diverse set of beliefs, a diverse set of opinions. For sure, we see that among the whole world right now. And I want to do my best to share my thoughts on where I'm at with you guys openly and honestly this morning. I've been super quiet and hesitant to have this conversation because it's a hard conversation to have. A hard conversation to go kind of public with what's on your mind, what's on your heart. And I'll share with you guys the first thing that hit my mind. People started asking, close to me, a lot of people close to me, family, close friends, have some really strong emotions toward all of the current conversation today and what's happening in response to George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and the protests. A lot of people very close to me have been involved in a lot of the protests. And there's a strong emotion all around kind of my environment or atmosphere. Not necessarily strong opinion, but strong emotion around the meaning of what's happening, and where it could and maybe should go. And at first people were asking me like, well, Blake, what's your opinion? What's your thoughts? And I'll be honest with all of you, I was super hesitant even to give a reply. Because the first thing that would go through my mind when someone says, well, what do you think about this? My internal conversation immediately went to, well, really, who am I to have a strong opinion, let alone an opinion that should be shared? I didn't say that out loud, but that was the conversation I said in my mind. I mean, for those of you guys that haven't noticed, I'm pretty white. I can't say in my 39 years I've ever had to go through anything even remotely close to something that would be called racism personally. So I can't claim that I know what that feels like or means. Beautiful day here in Santa Monica. I mean, my father is a lifelong law enforcement. His whole career, all different aspects. Highway patrol, sheriff, working alongside those with severe mental health and mental illness, detective, canine. So my dad being a lifelong law enforcement, I grew up in that household. And quite frankly, I'm not very political at all, which is an ironic thing to say, considering my degree was in political science. I got a degree with honors from a great university. And the only thing that degree taught me at the end of the day was, man, I believe we have a flawed system. And after the degree, I never paid a lot of attention to the political system, simply because I kind of have the belief that you can't complain about it if you aren't willing to actively and personally do something about it. And therefore, I've just never put energy into it, and I'm not going to complain about it. I think the world would be in a better place if we all adopted that belief. To complain should be to make the decision to act on. But those were the things that were going through my head. I'm like, who am I to have a thought, share a thought? Why should anybody listen? And then I started to kind of unpack that a little bit. Really, why was I afraid and have been afraid to say anything on this topic? And if I were to be honest with myself and all of you, the reason why I've been afraid isn't just because I haven't been through all those situations. I think that's maybe a rationalization to myself. I think if I go a layer deeper, it's because, you know what, I might not know what to say. I might say something wrong. I might say something that gets taken in an unintended way that creates a division or a conflict. I might say something that triggers a meaning in someone else. I might say something that gets a reaction. I might say something at the end of the day that gets judged. And that was an interesting realization of I was unwilling to say an opinion, not because I really felt I didn't deserve to have or share, but because I was afraid of being judged. And I think we all can understand and relate to why. How many of you guys have ever been afraid to say something? And if you were to be really open and honest with yourself, you might have made up a reason why, but the real reason why is you were afraid of a reaction of somebody else. You were afraid that you might say something wrong. You were afraid you might create conflict. You may be afraid that someone may look at you a different way. You guys, that's all different ways of saying afraid of judgment. And it makes sense. Like, we live in a time where judgment is like a profession. Like, literally, we're in a place where people, politicians, media, from the top down, are professionals at judgment. I don't watch a lot of news. Some of you guys that follow me, you know that. But over the last couple of weeks, late at night, my wife, Karis, has been watching the news because she's emotional about all of this. And neither of us are extremely political. We try to watch as objectively as we can. And I find it funny just to flip the channels back and forth between like Fox News and CNN and Fox News, like every couple minutes. Not listening to the facts, but just marveling in the not news. It's not news channels. They're propaganda channels. I'm sitting here as a marketer marveling in the media machines owned and controlled by certain motives and agendas that somehow linger to this old definition of what news once was. And now we have professional spin doctors everywhere from the top down. How they take a fragment of a sentence totally out of context and spin it to suit their agenda. How they take a fragment of a video totally out of context and spin it to meet their outcome. And this is a profession, and they're so good. So good. I'm just sitting there saying, well, no wonder we're all afraid. Nobody's safe from judgment or the spin or a portion of what they say being taken out of context. I bet what I'm saying right now is at the mercy of that judgment and will probably be taken out of context in itself. So here's my first big distinction. Guys, intention matters more than judgment. Intention matters. The intention behind the action, the intention behind the statement, the intention behind the person. Intention matters. And if we're going to get to a place where we really want to create long-term change, we all have to get to a place where intention is greater than judgment. The intention behind the statement, the person, is what we have to read and not be so quick to judge the semantics of the words that we might all have different meanings tied to, the limited scope of an action that we might have a trigger or a past-based reference to. We're reacting or judging based on our own filter, triggers, past-based references, and we're ignoring what matters. And what matters, guys, is the intention behind it. We got to give some grace to the judgment. Because there's a lot of people out there like me that are probably saying, I'm white, I've never experienced racism, who am I to have an opinion, and are afraid to say anything because of an atmosphere of judgment being cultivated from the top down. So distinction number one, intention has to prevail over judgment. And I'd love for that to start top down, but let's be real, it ain't gonna happen. So it has to start bottom up, has to start with us and us giving grace to each other and not picking apart people's words or picking apart people's actions because they don't say it the exact same way we would or do it the exact same way we would. But if our intentions are aligned, our intentions are to create change, our intentions, right, are to make a shift, our intentions are to improve. If we're rowing the same direction, it doesn't matter if you row the oar a little different than the person next to you. You're rowing the same direction. My distinction, guys, is intention matters. We got to put intention over judgment. We got to give people grace and align on the intention, not judge the action people take on a good intention. The second thing that went through my head after I'm like, who am I to have an opinion? I realized, man, I'm just afraid of judgment, and we got to shift that. The second conversation in my mind was, well, I'm not racist. I honestly believe that. Like, I'm not racist. Like, I don't think I have a racist ounce in my body. I've never said anything negative. I don't say anything negative about people. It's not, to me, it's not a black thing or a white thing or a brown thing or a color thing. It's a people thing. Like, we shouldn't judge. I'm all about lifting up, not diminishing. I'm all about mutual respect. Like, that's how I see myself. So I wrote it off. Well, I'm not racist. I must be on the right side of this. And then two really small instances had a big epiphany on me. My wife, Karis, came and she said, you know what? I looked at all of Sadie's dolls. Sadie's our almost 2-year-old daughter, turns 2 in a couple weeks. She's like, out of all the dolls she has, and she has a lot of dolls, she's like, only one of them is black. I was like, wow. So Karis immediately went to Amazon, where she buys everything, way too much, way too often, and buys a bunch of black dolls. And then we're reading stories. We read stories to our kids at night. And I started realizing, wow, a lot of these stories that we're reading don't have a lot of color people in them. I saw my partner, Brian Underwood, share on his social media, Brian Undy, a bunch of good kids' book suggestions. It's like, wow. Which led to distinction number 2. Just being not racist isn't good enough. Because I was telling myself, well, I'm not racist. I'm on the right side of this equation here. But then I all of a sudden got hit right between the eyes that, wow, not racist doesn't mean the same thing as equal in all actions. And it took me looking through the eyes of what I was passing down unintentionally to our kids to realize that just not being racist is not good enough. This isn't a black or white thing, pun intended. This is a pursuit of better thing. See, it's not one side of the coin or the other. It's not all in or all out. It's not all or nothing. It's not this side or that. All of those siloed opinions are limiting. You give yourself an answer, you feel good, you let yourself off the hook. But when you talk about pursuit of better is never ending. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how good any of us are. Doesn't matter where we were yesterday or where we were a year ago, we can always get what? We can always get better. So guys, this is about, in my opinion, all of us as humanity, as people, committing to pursue better. And better can be mixing up the stories you read to your kids or balancing out your dolls. Better can be being more aware, considerate, observant. Better can be sharing your perspective even if you're afraid of being judged. Better can be having a conversation with your neighbor across the street. Better can be shooting a live video like this and sharing your opinion. But we all got to make a commitment to be better. I'm committed to that. A constant and never-ending pursuit of better. I've always been committed to that philosophy. I'm newly aware to aim that belief system. Now, when it comes to topics of racism and Black Lives Matter and privilege and color, because of the actions other people courageously are taking right now, are you? So that was my second distinction. And the last one that I'll share, the last thought that went through my head after I'm like, man, who am I really to share? And I realized I was just lying to myself. And hey, I'm not racist. And I realized that, well, that's not really enough. The last thing I was like, well, I'm just disconnecting from all of this because I can't control it. And a lot of you guys have heard that advice from me before. I believe that. I believe everything kind of falls into two buckets, things you can control and things you can't control. And I choose to focus my energy, my thoughts, my words, my beliefs, my actions, my intention into things I can control. Because when you focus on things you can't control, it just leads to frustration. It leads to anger, right? It leads to a bunch of dead ends, at least in my experience. So I was telling myself, well, I can't control this. And there's plenty to get angry about. I promise you, if you want to dig deep, you only have to go one layer in before you realize there's something to be angry about, pissed off about, something that's going to fire you up, rile you up. There's so much to get mad at everywhere. You want to get angry at something? There's plenty on the table to get mad at. If not, just go spend 30 minutes flipping back and forth between Fox News and CNN. In 30 minutes back and forth, you'll find something that pisses you off. But then I realized, well, what is it that I can control? And you guys, what we can control is being open to how other people feel about what's going on. You see, empathy has to win over anger. Notice I said how people feel. You can't argue with how people feel. It's not a debatable conversation. If somebody says, I feel this way, you have to acknowledge that is a truth because it's how they feel. And they have a right, a human right, to feel however they want to feel. It is undebatable. It is not a controversial issue. It is not a point that you can argue with. Now, you may disagree with what makes them feel that way, but that's not what they're saying. They're not saying the what. They're saying how they feel. You guys, empathy is being willing to put yourself in somebody else's shoes emotionally and being willing to realize that how they feel is about their own perspective of their meaning they tie to what's going on, and that is their human right. Now, you may disagree with how they got to that feeling, but you can't disagree with the feeling. It's how they feel. So the minute you choose to accept that their experience is their experience and their feeling is their feeling, and that's undebatable. The minute we start to break down the walls of getting angry at the what or the how we got there, and the minute we start to connect to each other as people, as humans, on an emotional level, it means we got to let down our guard. We got to stop taking our own perspective of how they got to their conclusion. And we just got to be willing to listen and hear how people feel about what's going on within and around and through them as people. And I think if we're willing to hear that with an empathetic heart, not only will we be less angry and full of hatred, jumping to any number of triggers that are available to us right now, but I think once we start to see through other people's eyes and feel through other people's hearts, we may find ourselves moving closer to the real solutions we're trying to solve. That's the root. Let's stop trying to fix the symptoms. Let's stop trying to get mad at the things around, and let's get to the root of acknowledging how each other feel, why they feel that way, and what we can do together to make people feel better. So guys, those are some thoughts on what's been going through my mind, why I've been quiet. I hope I didn't say anything that triggers any of you guys the wrong way. And if it did, I hope you heard what I said and understand that it wasn't my intention. My intention is alignment. My intention is awareness. My intention is to share how I feel in hopes that it might help some of you guys crystallize your thoughts and your feelings. But at the end of the day, it's also about taking a next step. And I'll end with this. You guys, all change starts with awareness. You can't have change without awareness. But it doesn't end at awareness. We have awareness right now on a massive level, and that is a huge, huge step. But awareness itself does not create change. Awareness is just step one. To create change, awareness must lead to a shift. It must lead to a shift in perspective, a shift in our belief, a shift in our thought pattern, a shift in our language, a shift in our actions. And only with all of those shifts will it lead to a shift in the outcome or the results that we want. And I think for all of us to take the awareness we have right now in the world and use it as a catalyst, we all have to be willing to make those shifts within each other, which means we have to seek intention over judgment to allow other people to express, even if it's not in the same words or actions that we would do. We're rowing the same direction. We have to challenge ourselves to be better. It doesn't matter how good or bad we are right now. It's a starting point, but to get better together. And we have to be willing to choose empathy Understanding how people feel is how they feel, and that is their human right. And how do we acknowledge and listen and hear how they feel so we can meet them where they are and not get angry or mad that they're not where we are. And I think if we take those steps, what's going on right now could be a catalyst to real change. It can be more than just a protest or a set of actions or a period in time. It could be a revolution. I think it's the beginning of one. Step one is done. Awareness is here. What shifts will we make? And it's not going to start from the top, which means it's got to start from the bottom, one person at a time. I'm committed. I hope you guys are. I hope this helps. I hope I didn't overstep. And I hope you guys take what I said to heart from me to you. Thanks for walking with me today. And if you feel that this message can resonate with some people in your social circle that maybe you're feeling the same way, go ahead and click share and give the gift to everybody. I appreciate you guys for walking with me. Thank you for the time. Can't wait to read your comments. Until next time, have a great day, everybody.
Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMallon and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.